All right, so this is going to be the video that kind of covers homework 1 on the different objectives and expectations and sort of how to do it. So obviously in this homework, this is the first sort of graded homework based on how well you implement it. Okay, so I need the calculations to be correct, functions need to be correct, all of the requirements need to be there. Okay, so the exercises thus far have been sort of like good faith, right? If you work hard on it, I'm going to give you your full credit. This one right here, you need to actually make sure that you get it to function the way that I want you to get it to function. Okay, so in this homework, you're going to be taking user input, comparing that input to certain values to decide certain percentages, and then implementing decision structures to be able to sort of calculate a salary in the end. Now, I'm going to make you compile that data and print it out as well in a very specific format. So the input and the output will have very specific formats that I want you to make sure that you get. Okay, so basically the assignment brief here is you're working together with the accounting department at Google. You're writing some software to go ahead and calculate salaries. You're going to be using 5 different sort of variables. You're going to have a job classification. You're going to have education, merit rating, service rank, and then years. Okay, so the way that this works, to calculate a salary, we have a base salary, and the base salary is $51,382.78. And then you just sum all these up. Okay, so for instance, if it's a new hire, it's going to be 0.5 times 51,382.78 plus, if he's high school, 0.4 times 51,382.78 plus, if it's excellent, 0.025 times 51,382.78, plus, the way this last little bit is, if they are a new hire, then it will be 0.3 times 51,382.78, and they have 2 years times 2. So it would be 0.3 times 51,382.78 times 2. Okay? So that's the way that that's going to work. You got to make sure you multiply the years times the base pay times the percent of base pay per year on that last calculation. Okay, so your input is going to have to be very, very, very specifically formatted. I want to look exactly like this. They're going to enter their first name, last name, job classification. They're going to enter all that data, and you are going to save that into variables, okay, so that you have those variables available to you for the processing. To process that, you're going to then compute the salary using if else, and or if else statements. Okay, that means you're going to probably have an if statement for programmer. Okay, or sorry, not for programmer, for job classification. If statement education level, if statement merit rating, if statement service rank, if statement stuff like that. Okay, now there are other ways to do this, and if you do it in other ways, fantastic. But if you just want to do really simple if statements, that's totally, totally fine. Okay, so you're going to probably be using if statements to be able to get the right rate, and then once you save that rate, then you can do your final calculations. Okay, so if job classification equals new hire, classification rate equals 0.5. Else, elif, job classification equals manager, classification rate equals, 0.7, and so on and so forth. And you do an if, else, whatever, all the way down the bottom, okay? So once you have those if statements and that decision structure put together, then, for the following inputs, you would come out with programmer gives us a 0.9, PhD gives us 1.1, excellent 0.025, journeyman gives us 0.07, 10 years gives us 10. So the calculation would be then base pay, and this is in capital letters for a very specific reason, and you should know why if you've been going through all the material. It'll be capital letters, which will represent that base pay, times 0.9 plus base pay times 1.10 plus base pay times 0.025 plus base pay times 0.07 times 10. That's going to give you your salary calculation. Okay, so again, you're going to need to replace those hard-coded values like 0.9 and 1.1 with variables that are decided via decision statements so that you can make this calculation. Okay, so the output needs to look exactly like this. Make the output look exactly like this, but use the input user input values. Okay, so I use some random values. Okay, so you can use the user first name, user last name. Welcome to Google Inc. Based on your job classification as enter the user classification, your education level of enter the user education level, your user input merit rating, and your user input years of experience as a user input service rank, your salary is, and this represents the calculation that you made here. Okay? And then you give it an extra space, regards Google. Okay, so I want it to look identical to that. Your console output must look identical to this. Okay, and your console input must look identical to this. If you do stuff in between, that's fine, doesn't really matter. Just make sure your input and your output look like that. Now, programming expectations, you must use a conditionally executed main method, alongside multiple functions. Now, I'm not telling you how many, but you need to use multiple functions. Okay, please keep your code self-commenting, which means use meaningful names for defs and for variables, for constants. And if you have any questions, please look at the grading rubric on the next page for specifics, and I'm going to go through that with you. Okay, so here's how you're going to be graded on this particular assignment. If you have correct logic and calculations, that means you actually get the right output here. You're going to get all 40 points, okay? If you're close, there's just some minor logical problems, then you're going to get your 20 points. Well, you can get, honestly, 20, 30 points in there somewhere, or 15. You know, it depends on how minor the logical errors are. If it's just like a syntactical error or something like that, you might be able to get 35 points or something like that. If it's quite a few minor logical errors, you may only get 15 or so. Okay, so there's a sort of a scale in here. If you have major logical errors and or no logic, you're going to get 0 points. Okay, that's the bottom end. Okay, conditionally executed main. I mean, if the main method and conditional execution is there, 10 points. If you have main method or conditional execution, 5 points. If you have none of that, 0 points. You're going to lose 10 points. If you use multiple functions, you're going to get your 10 points. If you only have a main method, you're going to get 5 points. If you have no functions at all, you're going to get 0 points. So you're going to lose 10 points there. If your names are random, so if your names of variables, functions, and constants are good, that means you're going to go ahead and get your 10 points. If they're erratic and random, you're going to get 0 points. And again, if your input is correct, like on the brief, then you're going to get your 15. Otherwise, you're going to get 0. If your output is correct, you're going to get 15. Otherwise, you're going to get 0. Okay? So your total, that adds up to a total of 100 points. Okay? So I want you to go ahead and get started as soon as you possibly can. That way, if you have questions, you can get a hold of me and email me as soon as possible. It's not complicated. Don't overcomplicate it. Just get to the point where you can sort of make that logic, and then you should be good to go. All right, if you have questions, please email me, and I know you all are going to do a fantastic job.